Hi, Monday Morning Bunch, my Monday Fun Day folks. Welcome to your weekly setup. I'm Jennifer Ogilvy. I get to be your on screen facilitator this morning, and joining me, my co pilot today, my co facilitator is the fabulous Katie Gideon. She'll be hanging out in the chat with you, and she's got some really fun links to share with you. We've got some March announcements coming up, so that'll be at the end, and she'll be sharing some links to that. I love that we've got like college kids home from spring break. That's starting. So glad for you mamas that get to do that. And let's see, we have Allie joining us for the very first time, very first social for Allie. So y'all give her a big welcome. Who else is here for the first time? Anybody? Drop that in the chat so we can give you a really big Silk and Sonder community, welcome. It's just really great to see y'all. Set that Zoom chat. Make sure it says to everyone because that's how we share with one another. This is a mics off, cameras off event. I'll be the only one on screen. And, take what you need. If you love the music, have your volume up. If you don't love the music, crank it down. If you want to just have quiet, put it on mute so you don't have to listen to me and you can just watch the slides. It's all about taking what you need for this first full week of March. It's here. And we're just really proud of you for showing up. You're sitting with your journals and you're getting ready to go with this brand new theme and a brand new month. So yeah, I had the I am loving space, which you will find in your journal on the bottom of page 41. I thought let's share that. Let's get going with some positivity. You guys have shared sort of what you are loving. Some of you are talking about the weather. I was looking, we're going to get a lot of rain in Texas this week, which we need it so badly. So I'm excited about that. And I'm loving a bunch of stuff. One of the things I'm loving is Amanda the other night in a setup in the weekly setup that I did, she said she loves the term instead of nobody's perfect, po buddies nerfic. And I wrote that in my box and I'll show you why in a little bit. But anyway, we're really, really glad to see you. So yeah, sit with your journal, drop in the chat what you're loving. That gets our vibe going for some positivity. I love to hear the things that are making you smile. And yeah, let's get going with this setup. We always start off by reminding you of our community guidelines because we do create these spaces for one another where we can show up as our genuine selves and support one another as we journey into our journal. We always like to make sure we point out number 7, which is the idea that these socials are tools for you for your emotional well being. But we want to remind you to always take really good care of yourself, be responsible. If ever anything feels a little funny, sit back. There's no expiration date on these journals. So, there might be a journal prompt that feels uncomfortable. Put it off and do it at a time when your mindset is ready to embrace it. But we want you to just take good care of yourself. And then anytime you have any queries about your journal subscription or suggestions, we will send you to hello@silkandsonder.com, which is the customer care address for our headquarters. So, yeah, new month, new theme. And, for those of you who have been here, we started off with alignment, and then that led us into February's theme of belief. And so now that we're like feeling pretty solid and did some work, we're going to think about what change looks like in our life. And someone the other night went, wait a minute. A for alignment, B for belief, C for change is our next theme. Something that starts with a D, and I'll just spoiler alert, it's not. So it just happened to be an ABC to start the year off. Mom, one of my favorite quotes from Mother Teresa. If y'all have never read her story, you should go check out a book on her. She's a fascinating woman. But this is a really good quote that I'm probably going to grasp onto for most of the month and most of my mindset is that I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. Michelle, you're asking, can I switch my display? What are you seeing? Is there an issue? I'm not sure what you're talking about, so I want to make sure things are okay. Yeah, you will see me with the slide until I go off camera. Are you on your phone maybe, or I don't know. Anyhow, I don't think I did anything different this morning. I can check my settings in just a sec and make sure. Katie, are you seeing anything strange on your end? Let me know. We're going to start off this morning. You don't see the screen is different than usual. Let me see if, hold on, let me go look at my slides. We will set the desktop, share. I don't know. Normally slides are in front and you're more in the corner and I'm in the center. Weird. No slides. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on a second. Let's just stop this very quickly and we will try to reset. Let's see what this one looks like. Hold on one moment. I paused my screen sharing. Y'all hang on just a second. Let me see if we can pull up this slide deck again. I apologize that it's looking strange today. Let me, one second, friends. I apologize. Let's see what we can find out what might be happening here. Let's see, we are on Monday morning. I'm going to re-pull up my slide deck and see if that doesn't help us out a little bit. One moment, friends. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, let me try to reshare and see. How is that? Does that look better, friends? I do apologize. That's better. Perfect. Okay. I don't know. Sometimes things get a little wonky. Thank you for your patience with that one. So we're going to do that change mind map. Now, I know we have a couple new people here, and so that is a bonus prompt that you get for coming to these weekly setups. You won't find these in your journal, and it's just a deeper dig into the theme of the month. We will be doing our rosebud thorn reflection, which is that idea of looking at the past week about what it brought our way. And then we'll dive into our weekly setup pages where I have a lot of great examples from the Sonder community to share with you for inspiration. You may already know what you're going to do for your setup. And we say, go forward, but we'll have some examples too, just in case you're looking to change things up a little bit. And I have a lot of fun graphics today to sort of have us look at maybe what we want to have for the whole month of March. So we'll share those as well. So find a blank space in your journal, weekly scratch pad, maybe your definition page, a quote page, the last page. I do my mind map on the very last page of my journal. Or maybe you'll just do sticky notes. Maybe you maybe you have a sidekick journal. And so we're going to map out our page. We need four sections this month. We will have four questions around this idea of change. And we always suggest, you could trace something like your driver's license or go grab a cookie cutter. Sometimes I do that. I say I always keep a can lid in my desk drawer so I can draw a circle around it. Today, I'm actually doing something different. I found some fun post-it notes. So each week, we're going to peel back a layer of what change looks like in our life, what we think about this idea of change. And so we're starting with week one. And our question is, how do you typically respond to change? Do you embrace it or do you kind of resist it? Think of past changes and your feelings around them. And what might this reveal about your relationship with change? And I started out so strong. I was like, here's, whoops, let's see, hold on a second. There we go. So I found these fun little sort of translucent post-it notes. So I've written the question on top of them, and then I'm putting them on top of my answer each month. So we'll see how that works for me. I usually just do a shape. But my when I started thinking about change, I went with I believe I'm fairly open to change. Probably more so if I'm the originator of said change. I value stability, reliability, and predictability, but I think I learned flexibility by being an educator and administrator. I've always loved the quote, which is a Yiddish proverb, make plans and God laughs. I value my tenacity to bloom where I'm planted. So I was feeling pretty good about that, when I looked at change and that I think I'm pretty adaptable. And then someone in the setup the other night brought up, yeah, I hate when they change a grocery store. And I was like, oh my gosh. Me too. My Aldi just did a whole remodel. I don't know where anything is, and I walk around grumbling like, why did they change everything? I'm just this fussy old lady, like I want to know where my bags of sugar are. So maybe I'm not quite as open to change as I was giving myself credit to, which I think is kind of a fun thing to look at. Like, oh, okay, there's probably some things I need to do some reflections on as far as change. So yeah, where are the nuts, Betsy? But they do that a lot, right? To point our eyes to new things. But I thought, yeah, I'm not as flexible. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's big things, or maybe it really is more about when the change is my idea. So this is really going to help me kind of think about that this month. So let me put on a little bit of music. I'm giving you a little more time this morning, so that you are able to set up your page. And then as you're thinking about change and how you respond to it, what's your typical response? And do you like it? My friend and I hung out Friday, and I was telling her about this theme, and she's like, change is hard. She says, there's bad change and that's hard, and there's good change. And even though it's good, it's hard. We really like the predictability of life. But if anything's inevitable, it is that things are going to change. So think about this, spend some time in your journal, and then we will get on with the rest of our setup. I am really excited about our journey together through this new theme. Y'all brought up some great points in the chat. Last night Alice brought this up. She says, maybe, but as I've gotten older, I'm more stagnant, and a lot of people talked about that last night. Like they always thought they were pretty flexible, but the older they got, the less flexible they felt. And I was thinking about like how many of our Sonder family are like dealing with parents and making decisions, and how they're just like, I don't need a plan, and I'll make a plan when I need a plan. And I don't, and there's so many of you have shared like, I'm trying to balance this caregiving out. But maybe our brains kind of shut down to change a little bit as we age. I don't know. There's a few of you who are like, I love change. I don't want to be stuck in a rut. I change my furniture. I do this and that. And so, you're realizing that maybe you're way more open to change. Something else that kind of came up as I was reading through your comments was the fact that, if we're starting to look introspectively at how we handle change, perhaps that will also help us realize that when we expect others to change, that it will just help us be better people to them, to understand like this also could be hard. Like maybe I'm all in, but someone close to me may be resistant. And knowing that we're looking introspectively at like, yeah, maybe we're a little reluctant sometimes, or examining that will help us be more sympathetic to those who are in our lives. So I think that's going to be a good thing to explore. So really appreciate that. Yeah, that transition period, right? Like I'm open to change, but the growing pains to get there can be itchy and scratchy. So y'all have shared such good stuff. I'm really excited about our journey. Facilitator Bailey wrote these questions this month. I think you're going to love them. We've already gotten to, see all 4 weeks, and it's going to be a really good journey. So if you're not able to make a weekly setup live, be sure to go grab, one of the recordings that will happen on the YouTube channel, because this is going to be really good. Yes, we all love our Bailey, don't we, Alana? So, anyway, thanks for working on that with us. So, we're going to now reflect over this past week. And if you're finishing up February and you want to reflect on last week in February, in that journal, you'll be on page 56. And then in March, this would be found on page 30. Maybe some of you transitioned over to that, or you just want to go ahead and do that in there. We had that kind of bonus week at the front end of March since, we started on Sunday. So we got that bonus week. So the roses and buds and thorns of our life, kind of an exercise in gratitude. Those thorns are the tough things that the week might have brought you, the things that you had no control over, maybe something that made you change. Thorns can be interactions with people. Sometimes people are our thorns. So what didn't go well? Maybe there's some health journeys that are hanging out, kind of defining every single day. The buds are what we're looking forward to, what's giving us hope and kind of a pep in our step, because we know something's coming up. And it can be as simple as a new week, or maybe you're looking forward to something in the upcoming month or even later in the year, but you're already getting, ready for that. And then what are you celebrating? What were your roses from last week? What brought you joy? Who brought you joy? Did you overcome a challenge? Did something go especially well for you at work? Or so think about that. Yeah, I put in my thorn. It's critters and varmints. We have a camp house. We're actually here at the camp house. And oh my gosh, Victoria, they got under the house, shredded the ductwork. And so, we're here. We're going to have an AC person come out and assist us with that. And it's just like, that was not fun. And it seems like we're always dealing with critters and varmints out here. So they are my thorn this week. They're an expensive thorn. My garden is my bud. I'm a big gardener. I'm trying to be patient because Texas always has, well, maybe lots of you experience this. You have a fake spring and it gets warm and you're excited for for the yard. And then there's one last cold blast that comes and you got you. So I'm trying to be really patient for that one last cold blast to come before I really get to work. But I'm thinking about my buds in my garden, and I'm putting little seedlings in the windowsills to start growing. And then for me, my highlight was I'm part of an organization called Philanthropic Educational Opportunities, which is all about women's higher education, and I'm president of my little chapter. It's not, a huge deal, but I just finished my first year, had kind of the wrap up meeting, and it went really well. I have one more year to serve, but I was just really proud for me because I feel like I don't know what I'm doing as I'm leading through that. So those are mine, and I'm gonna encourage you to find a silver lining in your thorn if you can. For me, it's like we're out here and I am listening to a warm breeze blow wind chimes. And it's just, that's why we love being here because we're away from all the hubbub of city life. So I'm going to remind myself of that while I'm thinking about my thorn. Let me put on a little bit of music. Feel free to share in the chat what's coming up for you. Where do you need some more support? Let us rally around you and let's celebrate each other's roses and buds. Thanks for spending time on this reflection this morning. Thank you for the support that you offer to one another in the chat. Oh my goodness, a knee replacement on Friday. Boom. Yes. And one thing can be all three, like Betsy said. Like she's got this new knee, so that's a bud, and the roses, she's got that surgery behind her. But the thorn is, yeah, what's coming up, right? The next few days, and then physical therapy. But you've got this, so we're cheering for you. Yeah, and lots of folks are looking forward to spring. It's around the corner. We've been wintering, and it's time to bloom. It's time for a new season in our lives. Oh my goodness, the fires in Colorado. Those fires are so scary, Emma. We get a lot of wildfires in Texas with the drought. And when it hits some of those acres, it's frightening. It's very scary. I'm just looking, you guys have a lot of really good things. I see a lot of thorns are, physical stuff. You're not feeling so great, you're a little under the weather, or you're dealing with chronic pain. I'm sorry for that. That's hard. Let's put some power into that. Write it down on the paper and, let it just kind of be there and just know that you've got this community supporting you through that. So thanks for spending time with this important reflection on what the week brought you. So this morning we're going to be setting up pages 32 and 33, which is week 10 in your journal. And I've got this graphic a couple of times in our slide deck this morning, so you'll see this again when we work on our second part of our setup, that second page. But there's a lot of stuff happening this week that perhaps you would like to consider incorporating in your journal. Maybe you need to use this fun little graphic over there on the right where you have like alliteration to define the kind of day that you're going to have. I mean, let's have a magical Monday, right? Or maybe, do a try it Tuesday and try something you haven't done before. Wonderful Wednesday. So that could just be a fun way to start your morning. Plus, we've got some national days of this is Read Across America Week, and I've been challenging Sonder family to maybe stop by your library and check out a book. Let your community know that this library is important. Right now, I feel like the libraries are kind of under fire. And I think it's real important that we use those beautiful facilities that are right there at our fingertips, and we don't want to end up taking them for granted. We have voting day on the 3rd. If you didn't already vote in your early primaries, try to prioritize that. The 8th is International Women's Day and Daylight Savings, if you can believe it. So if you're anywhere in America that will support, that does the daylight savings. I don't think Arizona participates, but most of us do. So be prepared for that, springing ahead and losing an hour. And I actually put a graphic together with some sleep tips to make that a little easier for us. So you'll see this. I'll show all of these slides again, and then this one shows up again later in our time together if you want to add any of those kind of days. And I always like to do a show and tell and grab somebody's stuff and put on here so you can see how they've set it up. This happens to be my setup for the week. I usually kind of finish my setup while I'm working with y'all, but I was on top of things. I was feeling so good and so sassy. You can see I wanted to feel attentive and accomplished this week. I've been kind of off my rhythms and routines. I started February with a vacation and just sort of fell off the wagon. So I want to be paying attention to that. So I set up these 2 pages. I was really excited to share it with you. And then y'all know how we have that extra week in the front of this March journal. Well, for some reason, I ended up on week 11 instead of week 10, which is what we are actually setting up today. So the wrong pages, and I thought, well, to heck with it. It's going to stay because some of the things on here are about what needs to happen this week. So I will just flip back to week 10 for next week. I'm just flipping them. But thought y'all would get a kick out of that. Like, breaking up with perfect is what Silk and Sonder always does. My to-do space has been repurposed as my to-dos for my garden love and getting that, getting on my little garden task that I need to do this weekend because I'm trying to get back into my rhythms and routines. I'm using my three major goals for my morning routine and my evening routine. Because I've just gotten way off on that. So that needs to be my priority. And then, yeah, I put a paper clip in it so that I won't turn to week 10 and be all freaked out. And then next week I'll be in week 10. So I've traveled to the future this week. And then my habits and activities, I'm pointing some of those to like I have a chore list in my meal plan, and I've blacked out the days because these seven things just need to happen at some point. I'm kind of using it as a menu. So I'll choose something each day and do that. Made a little bingo space in my shopping list. There's some stuff that I need to be on top of this week. And so each day I'm going to choose two of those things to do. And then I'll check that off at two items of the bingo of the week. I'll choose one thing from the mind body. So none of these are tied to days. It's just like my menu choices. And then I'm pretty good about filling my water bottle, but not good about drinking my water bottle. So I made those two separate activities in my tracker there at the bottom so that I can try to hold myself accountable to filling it and drinking it, and seeing it on the page hopefully will give me some power to be able to do that. So I wanted to share, my pages because I had them filled in for once, and here we are. I'm, attentive and accomplished, and I'm on the completely wrong week. And then you more than likely have been to a monthly setup. If not, we've got one more this evening. But I want you to go take a look at your intentions really quickly and also gaze upon your start, stop, and continue box. What content is there that can maybe inform how you set your journal up this week? Someone has taken their to do space and they've called it their intentions workspace. And they're going to focus on physical health and money management. And one of the spaces that they had was for fun. And so this is how they're holding themselves accountable to incorporate those intentions that they set. They're doing this little check in with themselves. Let's start off with how you want to feel. I had shared I want to be attentive. I'm not doing so great so far, but I could change that as the week goes on. Drop in the chat kind of what you're landing on, how you want to feel. You could use a word or a sticker or a mantra or an affirmation. What is kind of the way or how are you gravitating toward a word or multiple words? You can see here at the bottom, someone's kind of assigned how they want to feel each day. So perhaps you do that. Ooh, I love. I love a static erotica. That's amazing. You want to feel well, calm, composed, unhurried, focused and peaceful, healthy and productive, expansion. Oh, Kendry, I love that. The results of acceptance. Okay, that's great. Feel ease, connected, keep them coming, healthy. Oh gosh, a sinus infection. That's not fun, Marissa. Awake. I love it. Love it. Love it. And so here's a word cloud if you need a little inspiration. And sometimes we sit with how we want to feel and we can't really find the word. Drop that in the chat and let the community help you hone in on a word or two there. Keep them coming. And what we like to do is then take this feeling and look at our goals. How can this inform our goals? I have this SMART goals graphic up there as a reminder to make those goals as specific and measurable as possible. That will just help you. So it might be, you want to move your body. Maybe that's what your physical intention is, move my body. But specific would be, I'm going to do yoga for 20 minutes, 3 times a day for 4 days this week. That's getting very specific. You're tying it to a time. You're working a way to be measured, how you do it. So really honing in will help your goals. Here are some examples from our Sonder family. Someone has actually changed it up to be personal growth goals. You see that in the middle there. So that full permission to make this space work for what you are wanting in your life. Some more examples of setting this space up. I always like the left brain, right brain, where you kind of focus on the different parts of how your brain works, and then even no brain, like just some things that I have to do. Those categories help us plug things in. There's another example of one of my rhythm and routines week. I actually put my morning routine in the goal space and my evening routine in the shopping space. So I repurposed that. I needed to see it front and center. And then this person over on the right needed some self love reminders. And so that's how they're going to use that space. Y'all have some really great words this week. Thank you for sharing that. And then after we kind of look at what our goals are, we'll look at our to-dos. I love the use. This is an older graphic from a different March, but I love how they are using it. They're kind of coding some of these. This is that small calendar at the upper left corner, and it just sort of visually gives them that opportunity to go, oh, I've got something going on today. And then they've coded that with plans, or there's something due at work, or just an activity that they're going to be doing. So that visualization of what that month is looking like might be helpful for you if you haven't looked at those small calendars and used them in any way. We always love to share some tips and tricks. Using the Pomodoro method is that setting that timer for 4 sessions and then taking a little bit of a break. So you're basically working for 2 hours, and then you are taking a longer break for 20 minutes, and then you repeat a 2 hour work session, which looks like 25 minutes. Each session is 25 minutes with a 5 minute break. So that's 30 minutes. And so we do four of those. And it's called Pomodoro because that Italian word for tomato is Pomodoro, and it was inspired by this little timer in this guy's mom's kitchen. So, but this can really help tackle like a big project, a big thing to do. I've always said I need to use this in my garage, as we tackle all the things out there. And then we also call out to the Eisenhower matrix. Would love to know if you've tried the Pomodoro technique or if you've used the Eisenhower matrix. What did you think? How did it work for you? The Eisenhower matrix has this delete space where you can take your big O to-do list and plug all the things in there. And sometimes there just aren't things to delete. And so you can see how I think this person was probably moving, and they have created a donate space. Like, what am I getting rid of? What am I literally getting rid of for their delete? Also, in the delete space, that might be a good place to sit and think about what are the distractions that keep me from tackling the things I want to tackle. So, is it online scrolling? Write that, give some power to the paper through that. Here are many ways that folks have set up their to-do list. Some stickers make it fun. Maybe you do categories. And then we have some repurpose ideas like a to-be list, a to-do list. Perhaps you create a bingo here. Maybe you have a not to-do list. So it's really about taking what you need. I'm going to put on some music and I'll go back through these slides. So if you saw something you like, get a screenshot of it, or go ahead and put it on your page. And then we'll drop down to the habits and activity tracker after we complete these 2 sessions. I do love how y'all show each other support. Alice, I think focusing on sharp is a great word for you this week. And thank you, community, for helping her land there. So let's drop down to this bottom section, our habits and activities. At the front end of the month, I like to remind you, you've got that wheel of the things that you kind of plan to do most days of the month. But this tracker in the weekly setup is so nice because it can be varied depending on what your week is going to bring your way. And it's not just habits, it could be activities. Maybe you've got, you put your work out there and you're going to go on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so you write that down and you can circle your Monday, your Wednesday, and your Friday just as that visual that that's coming up for you. And it's okay to have the same, some of the same things from the monthly tracker showing up here on the weekly tracker. Sometimes when I double dip like that, it really does help me hold myself accountable to that. So let's take a look at some examples that have been shared by Sonder Community. You can see the one in the upper left has circled the days they want these things to happen, and they've set goals. But you have the option of not setting goals, of course. You can just straight up track, and you'll notice the one in the upper right there is pointing themselves back to different spaces in their journal. So, like they want to make sure they're updating their gratitude log each day, looking at that sleep tracker, checking in with the habit tracker, updating the mood tracker. So they're sort of using this tracker in the weekly to make sure that they're flipping back those pages and working on those other trackers that they want to embrace for the month. And then the one below that, you can see there's some goals set, and then they're tracking with little hearts. And they're doing three. If I show up for myself three times this week in each one of these categories, and then that reminder, this graphic here is, new habits. Sometimes they form really easy if it's kind of an easy habit, but I want to remind you sometimes habits are hard. And it could take like 8 months for something to get hardwired in your brain if it's a super hard habit that you need to stick to. So give yourself lots of grace and flexibility while you're working through that. Here are some more examples. The shout out that you don't have to fill in every line, like this bottom one that you see there in the middle. And again, setting goals is great. You could make it kind of fun, like the one on the left doing the countdown, the five, four, three, two, one. So it's really about taking what you need. So let's work on our habits and activities and share what's going in this space for you because you could inspire someone else. And reminder that a lot of your habits and activities should really be the same from week to week. So you can get them hardwired into your rhythms and routines. I'll continue to fill out the space. Um, Christina has shared she's traveling this week. And so she's keeping this very simple. And that's a good reminder to, just kind of look at what the week's going to bring you. If you've got a very full week, then keep this space simple so that you can feel success when you're setting the habits and activities up. Don't over commit. In other words, take good care of yourself. So as you're finishing this up, we're going to pop over to the second part of our setup. There is the graphic again on some of the fun things that are going on this week that you might want to incorporate into the menu plan, the mind body health space, maybe somewhere in this shopping list. And I've got lots of examples to show you for these spaces. The things that I'm sharing with you can be really put into any of these spaces. You're welcome to and invited to use the spaces just as they're printed. But you can see two examples of folks saying, well, I'm going to take the the meal plan and I'm going to save that for something else. I put my chores in it this week, but they still want to embrace the idea of planning their main meal of the day. So one person has done it in their mind body health plan. One person has done that in their shopping list. So it's about, making this work for you. Oh, Janine can't see the chat because she's driving. Be careful, Janine. Here are some meal plans that have been repurposed into priorities, week at a glance, affirmations, clothing plan, lots of different ways to use these big old juicy spaces. And then we've got the mind body health plan, and maybe something on this mind body health plan you end up taking and putting into your meal plan. Maybe something like the check in with how do I feel and what is that telling me I need, like you see in the upper right hand corner there. We love that reflection. There are some mini journal prompts that someone's going to do there on the bottom left. Maybe this is a space where you write your affirmations, or maybe your affirmations go in the meal plan. I love this bottom right one. They're going to release, rejoice, revive, resist, and rebuild. I love that. This one I put up for me because sometimes I feel very overwhelmed. I'm trying not to watch the news and I'm trying to curtail my social media a little bit. And so, just this reminder not to look for the doom and gloom, but to search for one thing that reminds you of the best of humanity and hold on to it, share it, treasure it, and return to it when you need encouragement. So, maybe somewhere in your setup this week, you're looking for the highlight of the day, or you're trying to find those glimmers, those little things that just bring you the smallest amount of joy. But that is just, it's so positive to look for each day. Now, I've got a lot of graphics here that may inspire some of these spaces. This one, this self care for spring, has all different kinds of categories here. So maybe you focus on one thing like quiet or being creative. But hopefully something here will spur something for your setup. And I'm going to go back through all of these so you can grab a screenshot. We talk often about embracing the 7 types of rest. Maybe you visit a different type of rest each day, or maybe you realize you're a little short on creativity time. And so you're going to incorporate creative endeavors for the whole week in your setup. Here are some repurposes of the shopping list. We love a bingo, and we always say if it's your birthday, make a birthday bingo and just be extra kind to yourself. If we've got any birthday folks in our session this morning, drop that in the chat so we can wish you a happy birthday. You see some rhythms and routines over there on the right hand side of this screen. Here are some daylight savings time tips to make our transition into losing that hour. If we start today, it'll make next week feel a little more palatable when we lose that hour of sleep. So you might want to grab some information from there. This is a wellness at work challenge. However, there's a lot of stuff that will speak to you, whether you're working in the home or outside of the home. But maybe you can find a coworker or a family member to do some of these, and you could pop those into some of these spaces on this page. We've got a spring cleaning challenge, and then also a photo of the day challenge is a really good way to frame this week out. And then, speaking of Read Across America, grab screenshots of how we can embrace reading and grabbing those books. And then some more spring self care, how to fill your own cup. That's a good, these will inform some of those spaces as well. And then finally, this is from the Silk and Sonder Instagram account. It's gold 31 days of becoming unrecognizable. I know we're running short on time, so let me put on some music. I'll go back through these slides very quickly. Grab a screenshot if you saw something that you're like, hey, I think I might try something like that in my journal. And I'll keep a lot of these big graphics in my setup, so you'll see them again through the months if you want to just focus on week one. Yeah, we'll do that. Hours always go by so quickly, and I'm sorry we had a little technical difficulty with the screen at the front end of this. It cost us a minute or so, which is so valuable. But this has been recorded. You'll be able to grab a recording of it. I actually did another weekly setup this weekend, so you could even go look at that one right now. It's the same set of slides. But my friends, I am really glad that you carved out space for yourself and your journal this morning. Thank you for joining Katie and me as we kicked off this first week of March. Share your planner in Sonder Club. We'd love to see your setup. Also, because it's International Women's History Month, we've got a deal for you that will last through March 7th. You can get 15% off site wide, and that includes like some Silk and Sonder sweatshirts. And, use the code women15 to get that discount. We want to make sure you're aware of that. Check your emails as well from Silk and Sonder. And then we have a Women's Month celebration coming up, an exclusive on March 11th. And so Katie's going to be dropping all these important links in the chat, and we will just tell you to have a great week, and we will see you next time, friends. Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a great week.